All right. Good evening, everybody. It is the Safety and the Sportswriter show with Knoxville, Nate, and Big Joe back after a couple weeks off, a little summer vacation. Back here to talk NFL football as the camps are now open. Preseason football is in full swing, and we're getting a look at starters. Shockingly, they're letting their starters play to get some game action. So maybe the early September games won't be such a cluster F, if you know what I mean. How you doing, Nate?
Doing pretty good. Yeah, man. It's shocking that you putting actual players on the actual field. It's funny how that works, but tons of injuries already, which we'll get into today. But I'm of the belief a lot of these injuries are caused by the fact that these guys don't do anything anymore. And when
Right.
they do try and do stuff, they break down quick because their body's not used to doing it. And I think there's got to be a happy medium. There's got to be somewhere in between. The old days, like when I was playing football, where we had 3-a-day practices, where I couldn't even get up the 3 flights of stairs to get to my dorm room. I had to
Oh
stay
yeah.
with Matt. Had to stay with Matt Capone on the first floor. To now, where they don't do anything and
Right.
don't even hit and are in shorts and t-shirts most of the time. There's got to be somewhere in between that works best for everybody.
Well, yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you there. Plus, I mean, the timing, the especially when you talk about everybody's biggest concern, the offensive lines. If you don't have these offensive linemen working together in game situations, how are they ever going to get their timing down? How are they ever going to work as a cohesive unit? I think that's one of the biggest problems that comes out, and a lot of the bad play we see, plus the injuries that happen early in the season, are can be directly linked right to that. So I think that alone, plus player evaluations. I mean, hey, sometimes veterans get cut because younger players are better equipped to take over their positions. So
Even
that's
if
why.
they're not, they're a lot cheaper.
Right.
So a lot of times they move on, and if it's anywhere close, what do you want to do? You want to pay a vested veteran whose contract is 100% guaranteed, and let's say they're making the veteran minimum, that's $4 to $5 million, whereas you can get you a young buck for 750 grand. So I understand the math, but sometimes I want a guy who I don't have to train and I can just put out there. But what do I know?
All right. Before we get into the injury updates and everything, we have to start out with we predicted it. When it happened, it happens every year practically in Cleveland, but this is just a new chapter in the ongoing novel of I don't know what stupidity that Haslam has put together. Shador Sanders again now is he started on Saturday. I didn't see him. I guess he did okay, not bad, whatever you want to call it. And now the talk is which is he going to make it to through camp? Is he going to make it to be the starter? Is he going to be on the roster? Dylan Gabriel, what's his chances? I mean, if I was Kenny Pickett, I hope I didn't buy a house in Cleveland. So I don't know what do you think about the Shadura Sanders situation?
Well, I mean, this is what we said from the beginning, which was, what are you doing here? Are you, trying to, have Joe Flacco be the starter? If so, why did you draft two other guys? Why did you, if you want these two young guys to develop, why on earth did you then also sign or trade for Kenny Pickett? You still have Deshaun on the roster. Nothing about this quarterback situation makes any sense whatsoever. But I will say, he looked better than I thought he would. Speaking obviously about Shador, given that it was his first time out, I thought he would struggle. Being that it was his first, real NFL action. I mean, he wasn't playing against starters. He didn't have starters out there with him. That being said, he looked better than I expected. He threw a couple of touchdowns, and moved the ball a few times. That being said, now he's hurt. So you've got Joe Flacco hurt. You've got Kenny Pickett is hurt. You got Dylan Gabriel, who is, not hurt, but banged up a little bit. And now you got Shador with an oblique injury. And then Deshaun Watson, who is also coming back from injury. So you have 5 quarterbacks and they're all hurt. They had to sign Tyler Huntley last week to serve as Shadur's backup. And he played most of the fourth quarter. And so right now, it's my understanding that I think Gabriel was practicing, unless this video I saw today was older, but I believe Gabriel's practicing and Tyler Huntley's practicing. And those are the only 2 quarterbacks that are even healthy enough to throw.
And it's just like we said, it's always they don't seem to have a plan. They seem to have a plan early in the Baker Mayfield era, which only lasted 3 years. They seem to be heading in the right direction. The first year they made some strides. Second year they make the playoffs. Third year, we know what happened. Baker was beat up most of the year. But since that day, since the signing of Deshaun Watson, it's like playing darts. Just keep throwing at the board and hoping you get bullseyes and ending up with 1s and 2s and 3s. So I mean, there's just no answers there, and they're in a tough division. Baltimore's not going anywhere. Cincinnati, we'll see if their coach can get out of his way and they can develop some kind of a defense. They should be a better team this year. Burrow is what Burrow is, and then what Aaron Rodgers can do with that veteran team up in Pittsburgh, along with one of the best coaches in football. So it's not going to be easy even if Shador is as good as he looked on Saturday. It's not going to be an easy road any way you look at it. And, right now with the confusion in the quarterback room, it doesn't look like it's going to be a great year in the mistake by the lake. So, and I don't know what to say besides that. Let's go a little bit Giants, which I did pay attention to on Saturday against the Bills. Again, not a lot of number 1 Bills out there, but we saw Jackson Dart come in, and I was really worried after Dart. I liked what I saw early, and I loved his throw on that touchdown pass. But I was watching it going, get him out of there now. Get him out of there now. Don't get him injured. Don't let him walk off the field with that as his last thought, that throw, making him feel good going in there. But Dable left it out there, and he did have that drive for the field goal at the end of the half. So what did you think about what you saw with Jackson Dart?
I think you got to leave him out there, man. If you have any plans at all about playing this guy in 2025, you've got to get him out there and get him some action. I mean, I understand injury. You don't want anybody to get hurt, but man, we got guys going down doing drills in practice. We got guys getting hurt, in the conditioning stuff. I mean, you got to play him. And, 12 of 19, 154 yards and a touchdown. I thought he looked good. The good news is, too, even if he were to get hurt, the Giants quarterback situation is so much better than it was. You got Russell Wilson there. You've got Jameis Winston there. You've got DeVito there. You've got Dart there. You got 4 guys who, are an upgrade over what they've had as far as depth goes in the past. So I liked what I saw out of him. I liked what I saw out of DeVito too. Honestly, he was 10 of 14 for 73 yards and also threw a touchdown. So the quarterback room, it looks improved. I will say that. And then Jackson Dart looked good running the ball. He had 3 carries for 24 yards and averaging 8 a pop. So I like what I saw there. And I think, this Giants team, did what they had to do. Talking about the Bills, I got to say, man, I don't know if Frank Gore Jr. is going to make the team in Buffalo just because their running back room is pretty full. However, he's going to make the team somewhere. I mean, this guy had 5 rushes for 24 yards, 21 yards, including another carry that he scored a touchdown on, and they called it back. But he also had 5 catches for 50 yards. He had a bunch of tackles on special teams. This dude deserves a spot somewhere, and I think he earned it in this football game.
Well, he's a football player, and the thing about it too with the Bills is this kind of what they've always been looking for, is the running game to take that off of Allen's back, and as well as he runs the ball, you don't want to take it totally away from him, but depth at running back would not hurt, and you gotta love a guy that can contribute on special teams too, because I remember listening years ago when Bill Belichick once came out and said, "Look, if you're coming in as a rookie and you're willing to play special teams, I'll find a place for you. I'll figure out something I can do with you, because special teams, a lot of these guys shy away from that. They don't want to be out there on special teams.
Well, this guy just wants to be on the field, and it was evident. You're talking about a dude, he's like 5'7", maybe, and he's out there tackling guys bigger than him. He was pass protecting. He was running the ball, catching the ball. I saw a lot of really good things out of him, and I hope he catches on somewhere if he does get let go out of the Bills' backfield, just because they do kind of have a logjam there.
Let's just, he's got the bloodlines.
Yeah, there's no doubt, man. He kind of reminds me of his dad, but he's not he's thick, but he's not as thick as Frank. And Frank was a little bigger than him, but he's made his own way. He's earned his spot, and I think he deserves a chance for sure.
All right, let's. The biggest name who's struggling in camp right now is Matt Stafford. He's got a back injury, which is always tricky. I know that for myself, and it's one of those situations where a lot of people are thinking the Rams. The Niners are rebuilding. The Rams made a lot of noise last year, came closest to upsetting the Eagles in the playoffs. Matt Stafford is 36, 37 now? You there?
37.
Yeah. So
37.
Yeah. So what do you think about the Matt Stafford situation? I don't think they should be in any. This is one guy I would be in no rush to play him. But what about the situation out there? Isn't Garoppolo still there?
Especially with a back injury like this, you don't want. Yes, they still have.
Are you still there? I'd say I'm having a little problem on my end too. I'm like I got that spinning thing going around. You there? Yeah, I think you're frozen.
Garoppolo took on, have a shot to make this team, and definitely have a shot to be the backup. I could see a scenario if Stafford comes back before the season, if he's healthy enough to be on the roster day one. I could see a situation where they cut ties. With Garoppolo. However, given this injury status of Stafford, it might be smart to keep all three.
Yeah, I would right now. And the other thing about, I know we all used to love Garoppolo because of his penchant for winning. But man, his reputation has taken a bad hit over the last 3 years. But this is the kind of situation where McVay thrives. Baker Mayfield was thought to be a bust till he spent a couple of months with McVay. McVay is the quarterback whisperer, so maybe it wouldn't be bad to have Garoppolo there as a backup throughout the season. Because let's face facts: if Stafford does go down and you still have an eye on getting to the Super Bowl or into the playoffs, at least we know Garoppolo can get you there. May not win it, but he can get you there.
Well, and, based on all the information I've received, he's looking a lot more like the guy that was in San Francisco as opposed to the guy that was in Las Vegas. I don't think he felt comfortable in that offense. I don't think he was ever truly healthy when he was out there in Las Vegas. And now he's healthy. He's back in a system that fits what he does. And I think this is perfect for him, man. And I could see him, I could see, this is a good situation now. They've got two guys that are wanting to play and wanting to get out there. You got a developmental guy in Stetson Bennett. You've got a guy who's been there, done that, in Garoppolo. And then you've got obviously your Super Bowl winning quarterback in Matt Stafford. So I think the table is set, and they just need to find out whether or not Matt's going to be able to play or not, because it's not looking good right now.
And we got Justin Herbert, who's going to start the first preseason game of his 6-year career. In 6 years, he's never started a preseason game, even as a rookie. But he's going to start this week. but he lost a big piece on his offensive line out for the year. Talk about that, and it's another situation where I like the fact that as we started saying, it's good to get these guys in there and get them some game action, even if it's just for a couple of series.
Yeah, and I do like the fact that they're going to put Herbert out there and get him playing. I think he needs to do that. They've got some new wideouts. They've got some new running backs. They've got some new offensive line now, obviously. But the main thing is losing Rashawn Slater. That's a problem, especially since they just signed him to a contract extension that made him the highest paid offensive tackle in all of football. 4 years, $114 million. That's an issue that now he's severely injured. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. 92 million of the 114 million is guaranteed. And he's gone for the year, man. He's on season-ending IR, and this is definitely a blow to the Chargers. And obviously now you got to have some questions about this guy's durability. He's gone down several times now, and it's not just bumps and bruises. He's had some injuries, and I would be concerned given all the guaranteed G-Jack money this guy's got in his pocket now.
What do you think about the chart? I mean, and the other thing is we know that Harbaugh likes to run the ball a lot. He likes to run the ball and take the pressure off his quarterback, so to speak. So how does this affect the way Harbaugh wants to attack the game?
I mean, I think they're still going to be, they're still going to run the ball. It's just, how much do you trust the guy on the left side? They're going to have to put Joe Alt out there, who's young, he's inexperienced, and that would concern me. You certainly don't want to get your quarterback hurt, especially when you've dumped all the money into him. But this is a team that, did go out and sign Mekhi Becton. And that I think is a good thing. They've got Bradley Bozeman. They've got Zion Johnson out of Houston. So, they've got a little bit more depth than they did last year. The problem is that they're already tapping in to that depth. But they also have Tyler Conklin, the tight end from New York, who can block and catch. So I think they're still going to run the ball for sure. But they've got less depth than they did, and losing Rashawn Slater is going to affect not only the passing game, but it'll affect their run game as well. But I do like their running back room. They picked up Najee Harris in a trade. They've got Hassan Haskins, who's a guy that everybody kind of forgets about, but was a pretty good productive player in college. And then they drafted Amarian Hampton out of the University of North Carolina. So they've got a three-headed monster there that they're going to use.
What have you heard about Las Vegas so far? Las Vegas, I mean, they're going to be the afterthought in that division. I mean, Kansas City so far owns that division. We're going to see if Denver with Peyton can make another step, and Bo Nix. You plan on the Chargers being there. Have you heard of anything to give the Raider Nation any kind of a hope this year? Outside of Pete Carroll being their coach?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, you got Pete Carroll. I mean, that's an upgrade right away as far as having a coach with a plan and a coach that has proven success in this league. Now, he's 80 years old, but this guy still has more. He's still got more energy than a lot of people, a third of his age. So that's a good thing. But I like the pieces that they quietly had an amazing offseason, getting Pete Carroll, getting Geno Smith, drafting Ashton Genty. They still have, one of the best rookies of all the NFL in Brock Bowers. Plus, they've got Michael Mayer, the really, really talented tight end out of Notre Dame, backing him up. Then they went out and drafted Dante Thornton Jr. And still have Jacoby Myers. So I like what they've got as far as skill position goes. I like Geno. I like Pete Carroll. It's going to come down to, this offensive line and whether or not they can protect and whether Ashton Genty, can convert his game to the pro style.
And in the West Coast, we'll stay on the West Coast here, a little bit up the line up in San Francisco, where we got, Brandon Ayuk's injured already. Dabo Samuels isn't there anymore. McCaffrey's coming back and hopefully will stay healthy. You got, Purdy's there. What is the window closed for San Francisco? Are they still a top dog in that division, or are they looking just to maybe scratch out a wild card berth and really get into rebuilding this roster around Purdy?
Yeah, I'm concerned. I listened to the training camp show last week with Sirius XM Radio, where they went out to camp and they talked, obviously, to coach. They talked to the general manager, John Lynch. They talked to a lot of the players, and they put last year in the past, so to speak. They're excited. They don't seem to be worried, but I think deep down they are worried because Brandon Ayuk, he's on the physically unable to perform list right now. He had that knee injury and the surgery late last year. He's going to be out for at least the first 6 weeks minimum. And then, they've got other injuries at that position. Pearsall has been banged up. Jordan Watkins has been banged up. Juwan Jennings has been banged up. And when you ask John Lynch or you ask, Coach Shanahan, whether they're thin at that position, he admitted, both of them admitted, yeah, we are. But, we love the rest of our skill guys. We've got, obviously George Kittle. We've got Christian McCaffrey, who's now healthy. But if you think about it, Christian McCaffrey was coming off of an injury. Then he gets another injury. I mean, is Christian McCaffrey even the same guy? Even if he is the same guy, how long does he last? I mean, do if you had, $1 million, would you bet it at the bank that Christian McCaffrey's going to last 17 games? I certainly wouldn't.
No, not at all.
And then they're banged up at running back as well. McCaffrey's not the only one that's, coming off an injury. They also have Isaac Urindo, who showed a lot of promise last year. He's banged up right now. The draft pick Jordan James is banged up. Patrick Taylor has been nicked up a little bit. So they've been playing a lot of undrafted rookie free agents. They've been playing Keyshawn Vaughn out there. This team is still, certainly wounded is probably how I would describe them.
I feel like we're in the middle of a show on the show MASH. It's just they just roll up the hospital tent to the practices. My God! And then of course Dak Prescott now is nursing a hamstring. That's just totally, expected. I say at this point with what goes on in Dallas. I mean, I'll tell you, and part of me was sitting there, going, yes, it means maybe the Giants can at least leapfrog over Dallas. I think they have a good chance to do that with Schottenheimer as the coach there. But, Dallas again, I don't know. Jerry Jones, sometimes I think, like the Micah Parsons things going on now, and before it was Dak, and before it, and then it was CJ. I mean,
CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, I mean CeeDee Lamb. I mean he seems to want to be in the press every day of camp instead of letting his team get ready for the season. It's all about contracts. It's all about drama. I mean, I think sometimes that he really thinks that his team is better as a reality television show than he is as a Super Bowl contender. When is this guy going to step back and let his coaches coach and his players play?
Never. I mean, that's not him. That's not his MO. You're talking about the one owner in the entire league that has his own spot on a radio show at the Fan, the local ESPN affiliate in town. I mean, he wants to be on the media. He wants to have his face out there, his tucked face. He wants to be the center of attention and have the spotlight on himself. You know what, dude? If your team would ever get it together and win, like the Dallas of 30 plus years ago, you would get a lot of attention and you would get a lot of praise and you would get a lot of media coverage. But he seems to have to try and, drum up that coverage with other ways. And it seems to me that there's some discord between him and Micah Parsons. And, I'm not sure they're going to get this thing worked out. I mean, Jerry seems to certainly think so, but, Micah's publicly requested a trade and isn't there. And, that could be a problem because he is their best player. So without him is going to be an issue. And then, Dak, is not the same guy. He's had injuries over and over again. And even if he's healthy, at the beginning of the season, I don't see him lasting 17 games either. So I think we're going to see Joe Milton getting some playing time. And I think that's why they traded for Joe Milton. I think they know that he's going to end up playing. I would put him out there every minute of the preseason just to get him some action because Joe needs it.
Well, obviously, I don't know Micah Parsons, but I mean, I think he could be of the opinion. Yeah, they stretched out Lamb, they stretched out Dak. He's aware of what went on with Zeke before he got there, and still the team is nowhere near any year getting to the Super Bowl. He knows he's going to get the money wherever he goes. Eventually he's going to get his pay because he's got that kind of talent. But it's just like maybe he just sits there and goes, "Get me out of town. Let me go to someplace where I can actually get paid and actually compete for a Super Bowl." Those guys got the money, but how's it helped them?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he really does one out. And this is a guy who grew up as a Cowboys fan. And now he wants out of there. So, I think he's probably grown a little tired. My whole thing is you fire a guy, once again, who's, Jason Garrett wasn't a terrible coach. Then you go out and you get a guy who's won a Super Bowl and you fire him. And it's like, I'm not sure that these guys just were terrible coaches. I think they were good coaches and they just couldn't, finally got tired of dealing with all the hoopla that Jerry creates. And, this guy thinks he's a general manager and he's not. He wants to be everything and do everything. But really what we've known is that the best owners are the guys that hire the best people and get out of the way and give them what they need to succeed. And Jerry doesn't want to do that.
Well, especially, and the worst thing is he's competing in the division against probably the best GM in football today, Howie Roseman. And, everything Roseman touches turns to gold because he understands how to develop and build a football team. He understands how to develop defenses, offenses. If he doesn't get the right players, he's not afraid to make the right moves. Coaching, if he's not getting along with the coach, he knows what he's looking for in a coach, and he'll find it.
Well, as people have said this past couple of years, and I agree with them, Howie's playing chess and the rest of these guys are playing checkers. And it's a fact, man. I mean, he goes out and drafts players' replacements when they don't even really need them. And then he has those guys come in, and it's like a college environment more than college is even more. These guys get groomed underneath these really successful, high-functioning players. And then when it's their chance to go, they're usually ready to rock. And just look at you lose Jason Kelce, one of the best centers we've seen in the last 20, 30 years.
I thought they were going to collapse with that.
And nothing, I mean, they didn't skip a beat. They won the Super Bowl without him. I mean, you lose a guy who's probably, on your all-decade team, probably one of the greatest, offensive linemen you've ever had in Philadelphia.
In the NFL.
And a dude who made all the calls and, set up the line and was the leader for your team and a captain. He retires and you win the Super Bowl with a guy who's a first-time starter. So that's what Howie's doing over there. And, people are trying to copy him and trying to emulate what he does, but nobody really understands how to build a team like he does.
Let's talk about the overall stuff we're seeing going on with football right now. One thing, I watched more preseason football this past weekend, I think, than I've had in the last 5 years. And a lot of that has to do with what we discussed earlier. You weren't seeing any starters. You're seeing guys that you won't see come September 1st playing. You know, preseason football was basically a scrimmage for the coaches to evaluate their backups. So now I was happy to see that. The one thing I did see, and I thought, and you may disagree with me on this, but when I was watching it, I understand you wanted to play actual game conditions. But I thought, having a running clock just to keep you shorten the games might have been a little bit better. Maybe have a running clock until the last 3 minutes of the quarters, and then you actually stop the clock on out of bound plays and stuff like that, just to take a few less hits for the players. I also thought, the way kickoff game goes now, I would have just started everybody in the 25 and said, you started from there. Don't need any collisions on kickoffs. You can practice that in practice. Maybe, what do you think about those ideas?
You mean taking it out of just the preseason?
Yeah, just take it out of the preseason.
Preseason. Well, you say that, but then if you look at the Patriots game and watch what Travion Henderson did, taking that kickoff 95 yards for a touchdown, right there, if I'm the New England Patriot, I'm excited because I've got a guy who not only is going to help us in the run game, not only help us in the pass game, but now, I'm going to put him back there to return kicks for the Patriots. And, I'm sure you could see some of that in practice, but without putting him out there in a real-time game environment, how would you know whether or not this guy can do it with the NFL rules, with the NFL setup, with all the stuff? I got to be honest, I really don't like what they've done to the kickoff. I think it looks like, it looks like the UFL or what, the old league that they did that in, and it just looks like fake football, and I think it's disgusting. They say that they, did it because they're worried about, player safety, yet they keep adding games on. If you're worried about guys getting hurt, why do you keep making them play additional games? And
especially
now
the middle of the week.
Yeah, now and then you have them playing on Monday, you got them playing on Thursday, you got them playing on Sunday, you get them playing on
later Saturday.
If you give a shit about these guys' health, then why are you making them play with 4 days rest? They don't really care about that. They care about making money and lining their pockets, and we all know that. I guess I'm more of a traditionalist, and I just think that these guys are getting paid to play football, and it's like now, even if somebody's got a little tweak, they're out for a week, and in the old days you would maybe sit out for a play or two and maybe wrap it up, and then you'd go back out there, and now it's just like they just somebody gets a ding and they're out for 3 weeks, and in the past I think guys would play through that. I understand trying to prolong your career and everything. It's a different world that we live in.
Well, it's the medical studies come in. I mean, the CTE, when that came in, and everybody learned how bad the concussions are. But at the same time, I remember when I was growing up, and it was in my 20s and 30s, people like Art Donovan would be on Letterman, and he's 80 years old, and he played with a leather helmet in the 50s, and he's sharp as he can be. But there's other cases, guys, died early. I mean, sometimes I think it's genetics. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, but I mean, this is the life they've chosen, and it's going to be a rough game. But I have friends that are masons and construction workers, and they constantly are aching and dealing with bad backs, bad knees, bad elbows, just for doing labor jobs around houses and stuff. So, I understand it because they do something very, very high profile. We focus in on it, but they're supposed to be tough guys too.
Yeah. Now my wife works at Amazon, and she's picking up packages for 10 and a half, 11 hours. And she looks like a football player now with her body, how strong she is, and how in shape she is, but she gets sore sometimes too, but she doesn't get to be like, oh, I got a twinge in my back, I'll be out 3 weeks, guys. I mean, she toughs it out and puts Ben Gay cream on and goes back to work. So I agree with that, man.
I was a UPS driver for 5 years. Believe me, I know what it's like. I was like out there, frozen hands, frozen feet, whatever. But you can't stop. You got to get everything. Your package is done. So it is what it is. There. I saw something before he came on the air. I wish this guy would go away. Odell Beckham is apparently talking with Aaron Rodgers about joining him in Pittsburgh. Like Pittsburgh needs that. I don't know. I mean, Odell, look, when he came into the league, he was as dominant a wide receiver as we've seen. He's talented as we've seen. He's not that player anymore. And if Aaron Rodgers does in Pittsburgh the kind of stuff he did in New York, I don't think he will. I don't think Tomlin will put up with it, where he wants certain players brought in and other players shoved out the door. It's only going to hurt the Steelers. It's not going to help the Steelers. OBJ at this point should be getting ready for his post-football career. He's had major injuries to his legs. He's not as fast as he used to be, not as explosive. He still has the hands, but he can't get open like he used to.
No, it's over. I mean, we saw what this guy looked like, when he joined the Ravens. He had 64 targets. I think he ended up with like 35 catches for 500 yards. And then in 2024, he tried it again and played in 9 games for the Dolphins and had 9 catches. I don't think anyone's going to take a chance on him at this point. And I certainly don't think the Steelers are going to bring him in. You want to stick with the guys that you've got. You want Aaron to come in and adapt to the culture that the Steelers have. You don't want to start adding pieces in there. We're not going to go out and get Devontae Adams and go get Jordy Nelson and go get every freaking player that's ever played with Aaron Rodgers or that Aaron wants. You want Aaron to come in and join your team if you're the Steelers right now.
And it's just not the Pittsburgh way either. The Pittsburgh way has always been team. I mean, even Roethlisberger was a little bit of a diva, but for the most part, he was part of the team. He'd stick within the confines of what what the Rooney family wanted their team to look like, act like, be in a community like. And you could see when they got the troublemakers, they kind of pushed him out the door or didn't re-sign him. They figured we'll get somebody else down the line. So, hey, we'll see what happens. Let's talk a little college football here. Big game coming up for your Ohio State in the beginning of the season, huh?
Yeah, man. This opening weekend is going to be absolutely legit. You've got the noon kickoff with Ohio State versus Texas in Columbus at the Horseshoe. You got LSU playing against Clemson. You've got Florida State taking on Alabama. There's some very, very interesting games in week 1 in college football, and we're going to learn about a lot of teams right away. To be honest with you, I'm not super worried about it just because, I think either way is going to help our team. I mean, if the Buckeyes win, I think we'll get some confidence out of it. I think we'll be, thinking, feeling pretty good about ourselves and be ready to go. I think if we lose, maybe it'll bring these guys back down to earth a little bit. And obviously, one loss isn't going to affect us, especially losing to the number 1 ranked team. So, I'm kind of excited about watching this game because I'm not super concerned about which way it goes. However, this is going to be a very, very interesting week 1 where we're going to learn a lot about some of these teams. And, there's Syracuse is playing Tennessee. You got, like I said, Alabama and Florida State. There's a lot of interesting football matchups in that week 1. But, LSU, Clemson, that's the one that I'm really interested in probably the most besides the Ohio State and Texas game. I want to see if Brian Kelly can win an opener. I want to see if he can, take down number 4 Clemson, and see what Garrett Nussmeier looks like, see what the knee looks like. And then obviously I'm interested in watching Virginia Tech and South Carolina, which is on Sunday. And the second game on Sunday is Notre Dame, Miami, Catholics versus the Convicts. I think that'll be a pretty interesting game as well.
Yeah, I don't. I was there. I was a big Notre Dame fan at the height of that rivalry, and nobody hated Miami as much as I did. I mean, I couldn't stand Jimmy Johnson. I couldn't stand them. The Catholic versus the Convicts. It's such a funny 30 for 30 to watch how the kids made so much money on that. They built the T-shirts and stuff, and but then again, and looking back, I'm not a Blue Holtz fan anymore. I realized he's not exactly what he portrays himself to be. So I don't know. We'll see if they can relight that rivalry a little bit. It would be nice to have some of these rivalries back. I mean, there's very few big-time rivalries around football anymore. Most have been watered down through the conferences jumping around and stuff like that. But we'll see if we can get those back. I want to see what we've been waiting for Arch Manning. It seems like since Eli was at Ole Miss, it seems like now, and now is his time. I want to see if you saw flashes of what he could do last year, but he's got to be able to do it week to week, quarter to quarter, play, series to series, and we'll see. And there's going to be a lot of pressure on him right away. I'm also interested to see Klubnik because I started to watch him a lot more at the end of last year, and he impressed me. I thought he improved. His game seems to be maturing, and we'll see what Clemson can do. Not really sure if Dabo can get his defense back to the way it used to be. That's what I think Clemson needs to show me. I don't know if you agree with that.
Well, I mean, obviously losing Venables has affected, the effectiveness of their defense. However, they have a lot of really talented players. Jordan Thomas right now is probably one of the best edge players in all of college football. They've got an All-American defensive tackle. So I think they'll be better this year on defense than they were last year. And Cade Klubnik was getting it done. In that, if you look at the game in the ACC championship game against SMU, he was slinging the ball all over the field and looked like the guy that they expected him to be. And like I said, this is just going to be a great matchup. Klubnik versus Nussmeier. Who can lead their team to victory. It might come down to who gets the ball last, honestly.
And I hate to tell you, but I will be rooting for Syracuse, even though I grew up a Syracuse detractor, just because Angeli's there. And I'd like to see him be able to hold. Syracuse isn't going to go anywhere this year. I know that. Everybody knows Syracuse is a second, maybe third tier football team. Hell, their basketball team isn't even what it used to be. But the fact of the matter is like, here's a guy who I thought Notre Dame gave a raw deal to. And I even though I like Marcus Freeman, I'd like to have Marcus Freeman at some point in this year look up and go, yeah, I should have given this kid more of a shot.
I agree. And I think, the coaching staff at Syracuse has done a really good job with what they have. And, really looked good last year, beating a lot of decent teams and now bringing in Steve Angeli right after they had Kyle McCord from Ohio State. Now they've got Angeli from Notre Dame. So they've got two high profile quarterbacks 2 years in a row who've come in to their program. I think that says something about what they're doing there. I think it says something about their coaching staff and their recruiting ability. And this is a big time game for them. If they can come in and beat Tennessee, I can't remember if this game is in Atlanta. I think it's in Atlanta. If they can go down to Atlanta and take care of business, is it Atlanta or is it up in Syracuse? I'm trying to remember.
I think it's in Atlanta. I don't think it's in Syracuse.
I'm trying to remember. It's on the 30th. I can't remember where this game is. No, it's in Atlanta. Yeah, it's in Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. They can go down there and take care of Tennessee. I think that's a huge victory for them, even with, Tennessee obviously dealing with the Nico departure.
Let me ask you a question overall about quarterback play and what your opinion is on this, because this just came to mind for me. With the fact that Angeli will be playing half his games, if not more, in a dome stadium now for the rest of his career. Um, does the dome stadium have a negative effect on scouting a quarterback, or is it just it's just a flat line? And with the fact that most of the pro teams are going or look seemingly approaching going to dome stadiums, it won't matter much in the future.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's good for some of these guys to get used to playing in that environment. A lot of these NFL stadiums like SoFi that we're looking at right behind us here, they've got the roof that opens and closes, and a lot of them do, including the one in Atlanta there. So they need to be used to playing in that type of environment. So I think it's not a bad thing, or it's not a detraction for many of these guys from going to going to Syracuse. And obviously, as I mentioned, they're pulling guys in there. I mean, getting Kyle McCord from Ohio State like they did was huge. Obviously, they would have had nowhere near the amount of talent that they had last year if they didn't have Kyle back there pulling the trigger. And now being able to pull in Steve Angeli when a lot of us thought that he may go somewhere else, getting him to come to Syracuse is huge. And I think the offense they have there will set up good for what he's able to do. Really impressed with this guy when he had to come in for Riley Leonard when he was hurt, in that playoff run, and things, it sometimes looked better with Angeli out there, and certainly didn't drop off.
Yeah, I see a lot. I see a lot of potential in him. I mean, I'm not going to say that he's going to be Tom Brady or anything, but I could see him being the kind of guy that you could develop into a pro quarterback, at least a good backup. I don't know if he could ever be a full-time starter, because we haven't seen enough yet. We'll see this year. We're going to see him for the full schedule and see what he can do. But the fact of the matter, what he's shown so far, no game's too big for him, which is the biggest thing. So,
yeah, and they've got a decent schedule that sets up where he's going to be in some primetime action. They're playing number 24 ranked Tennessee in the opener. They play number 4 ranked Clemson on the 20th of September. They play 16th ranked SMU in Dallas. They play Georgia Tech, who is a much improved team. They play Bill Belichick's North Carolina. They play Miami. They play Notre Dame. They play BC. This is not an easy schedule for Syracuse this year. And there's going to be a lot of times where he's on TV getting a chance to show what he's got.
All right, so what do we got? What do you got going on man coverage this week?
Last weekend we had Sean Schrock from the Ohio podcast in the Buckeye Lounge, who came on and helped us break down the Big Ten preview. This weekend we're going to be talking a little bit about coaches that were on the hot seat, quarterback competitions that are going on, the top transfers in the nation, and then obviously the second half of the show will be an SEC preview, where we break down the Southeastern Conference and, who the top transfer players are, the impact freshmen to look for, and then obviously we'll pick, each of us will pick our top 10.
All right. All right, my friend. Good show tonight. Everybody who tuned in, hope you enjoyed it. We will be back next Thursday around the same time, probably 5:30 again. Next week we'll get more into camp, maybe take a look at the AFC, who we think is going to be impacting there, who could potentially, kick the Kansas City Chiefs off their perch, which they seem to be the new Patriots of this decade. So we'll see if there's anybody who can step in and do that. And like I said, we'll be back 5:30 next Thursday. Everybody have a great weekend. Remember, summer is fleeting. It's getting away from us. But the best thing is, it means football is getting closer. So have a good night, my friend. I will see you next week.
It still feels like summer down here.
It does up here, too. Believe me, I know.
All right, see you, buddy.